Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, friends, enemies and comrades, this is Kenya Revolutionary with another video. Very quickly, very brief. I just want to give my comment, my 2 cents on what happened in Obinna show. So if you've been watching, if you're a fan of Obinna show or you just scroll around this internet, you'd see that there's a clip that's going viral. It's a clip of Obinna kicking out or stopping the show, basically, his show, stopping the interview, let me just say that, between him and Kasipul. I guess this guy is from, I don't know if he's from, I think he's a Tanzanian who is very pro-Suluhu. And he was on Obinna's show, basically, had a gripe with Larry Madowo. Larry is Kenyan, who is employed by CNN, just like Jeff Koinange back in the day. And actually, he mentioned that Jeff Koinange was his, kind of somebody he looked up to. But regardless, Larry Madowo worked for BBC, but now CNN. And he was in Tanzania and kind of gave a report on the brutality against the civilians, the protesters, the police killings that was happening, that he claimed, according to CNN reports, it was, the police were acting on orders by Suluhu or the police head or whatever the case is. The government basically shooting down protesters who were protesting Suluhu's victory. Suluhu, as you know, had won by 97%, which a lot of people are questioning that. But regardless, let me just bring you to this interview between Obinna and Kasipul. But before I do that, very quickly, if you haven't subscribed to this channel, please take a moment and hit the subscribe button. Like the video and share it with your friends. Tell them about this channel. We talk about politics, Kenyan politics to be precise, and world politics as it relates to Kenya, okay? So, Kasipul was basically saying that Larry Madowo, working for CNN, was basically giving a one-sided news about what transpired in Tanzania regarding the killings. And he said that he was not happy with Larry Madowo's, documentary, CNN documentary about Tanzania, because it is painting Suluhu in bad light. And Madowo was like, no, there were people being killed, people being buried. And the Kasipul was like, okay, so if people were being buried, how can you, did you see any, like mass burial? Did you see, if you're going to bury people, you're not going to bury them in an urban area. And number two, where are the photos of this mass burial? The point he was basically making is the one that I just mentioned, is that CNN had a propaganda hit piece against Suluhu. Okay, and he was trying to explain this to Obinna, but Obinna was not being tolerant. In fact, once Kasipul mentioned the name of Larry and said, Larry, what the heck, my brother, being somebody from Africa, Eastern Africa for that matter, you should have done a better job of covering the whole, giving context behind not only the killings, and be accurate in your reporting. Because they were claiming that, I don't know, thousands of people died, and the government claims it wasn't that much. Yes, there was killings, but it was not that amount that CNN was trying to report. But what really I found troubling is Obinna was not ready to hear Kasipul's side. Instead, he kept on saying, hey, listen, I'm not going to let you come here and talk smack about Larry Madowo. Larry is a journalist who went to a journalistic school. So, I'm not going to let you come here as somebody who's being paid by Suluhu to say things, not so very complimentary things about Larry Madowo. And to Kasipul's credit, he said, listen, first of all, if you are going to claim that I'm getting paid, can you prove that I got paid? I'm not being paid for doing whatever. He was actually also getting worked up. And he challenged Obinna, can you prove that I got paid? Because I'm not paid. I'm just stating the fact that this guy was giving a one-sided story. It's like a propaganda. And, if he's going to tell the story, give it context. Show the whole story. Don't just say that Suluhu is a... Granted that Kasipul is a Suluhu sympathizer, whatever the case is, and he has the right to support Suluhu for whatever reason, okay? But I thought he was making a really good point. And I was disappointed that Obinna actually did not let him say what he wanted to say, explain himself. Because if you have a guest coming in and have a contrary view, regardless of your affiliation or your friendship with Larry Madowo, let the guy state his claim. Let him make his case. Let the viewers, make up their mind. But it seems like a lot of people, they just do not want to even imagine that, there's the other side of the story. They just think, Suluhu is this dictator, Idi Amin is killing his own people, killing her own people, doing all sorts of things, which might be true, but don't just take news in its face value. Ascertain the truth, research, do your due diligence. Is it really actually true that he's killing people in large numbers and burying them? I don't know. That's the other question is. And to find out the truth, even if before you even do your investigation, your own investigation, you should hear both stories, the government side and the other side. Now, here's where my personal view comes in. I've always mentioned on this channel that Suluhu is being demonized, and they will probably take her out or try to take her out, whether through a coup d'etat, military coup d'etat, because it seems like this color revolution has failed. So the next step, if you read John Parkin's book, The Confessions of an Economic Hitman, if they fail to, remove you through a sponsored people's revolution, where we call it color revolution, the next step is always to bring the jackals. The jackals are literally people who are going to, take you out, like physically take you out, like take you out as kill you, take you out. That's that kind of taking you out, okay? So they use different mercenaries. They might have a group of mercenaries. We have a couple of them in East Africa. I'm not talking about Wagner. Wagner is a Russian one. There's an American one, I forgot its name, that's based from Washington. But I'm just saying, yes, if the popular revolution fails, they'll always try to take you out, like assassination plot against you. If that one fails, then they'll bring in the heavy artillery. They'll bring in the military, and through the military, they can do it different ways. They can actually try to compromise one of the military guys in your country, pay them a bunch of money, just like they did with Pinochet in Chile during 1950s and 60s, to remove the democratically elected president, okay? So they paid this general and took him. A good example in Africa is Patrice Lumumba. Patrice Lumumba, they could not take him out through popular revolution because Patrice Lumumba was famous, was popular with the people. People loved him. So what they did, they paid one of the top generals of Congolese general, Mobutu Sese Seko, to take out Patrice Lumumba. And you know the history. So this is what they're going to do with Suluhu too, because now the propaganda has failed. The people's revolution is probably failing because Suluhu is pretty much dealing with these guys, standing on her own. And the December 9th protest, which is still on course, but it seems like it's more than likely it's not going to be successful because Suluhu is cracking down and has exposed the payment that these paid activists in Tanzania and also in Kenya, the amount of money they're receiving from the so-called NGOs. Again, from John Parkin's book, you can see the NGOs, different NGOs, whether it's Ford Foundation, there's George Soros Foundation, there's USAID and other international NGOs that usually pump money into different organizations that actually funnel this money through the activists, the young people, to mobilize young people to go out the streets so they can actualize a popular revolution, people's revolution, to take out the head of the country. Now you might ask yourself why do they want to take out Suluhu? I've always mentioned here, Suluhu banned the use of US dollar last year, June 2024, if I'm not wrong. He said that in his country there'll be no trading in US dollars, okay? No more. You cannot use the dollar in Tanzania. And this did not sit well with Washington. And after that, that's when the propaganda started against Suluhu. Oh, she's a murderous dictator. She's doing this, she's doing that. And Suluhu is basically just trying to have Tanzania be independent from the West. Now, this is why, I look at this story when people, the government, pro-Suluhu people say, okay, they've admitted that there's killings, yes, but I mean, let's provide context and, context on how these killings took place. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say Suluhu is innocent, is doing all the good stuff, she's not a dictator, whatever the case is. I'm not going to do that because that's a different conversation. But my next video is going to be about why Africa regime change can only happen through coup d'etat, military coup d'etat. And you see the evidence in West Africa and other places why in Africa military coup d'etats are always successful. You'll never see a successful popular revolution, okay? I'll tell you why. That's the only option. And that's, even in the Kenyan context, I am now fully believe strongly that the only way to take out Ruto and the whole rotten political elites in Kenya, criminal class, is through a military coup d'etat. But that's also challenging, but I will explain to you in my next video why this is. But back to this Obinna situation, just to wrap up, because I wanted to make this video really short. CNN is a known propaganda machine. CNN and BBC is a pro-Western propaganda machine, okay? If you remember the war in Iraq, leading up to the war in Iraq in 2003, the kind of propaganda that the beating of the drums of war against Iraq. I mean, we were being told Iraq, Saddam Hussein was seconds away from detonating a nuclear weapon that can head to London in 2 minutes or Washington or whatever the case is. I mean, there's a bunch of lies. And you see that the same thing, this Western media doing the same with the situation in Venezuela right now. Now we are meant to believe that Venezuela has been pushing drugs in the U.S. and they're doing deals with Hamas and all the terror. I mean, there's a bunch of nonsense, guys. So to me, Larry Madowo, he thinks that he's actually, he's probably happy with himself because he's in he has a plum position in CNN, traveling around the world and enjoying life, the perks that comes with a, reporter and working for a huge name like a CNN. But Larry has sold his soul. I'm sorry to say that, and that's normal in African, society. We look at the West as living that luxurious, materialistic Western lifestyle is the, apex. It is you've arrived. That's what we yearn for. That's what we define as success. So Larry loves his position as this reporter, doing the slave master's job, and he's good at it, and he doesn't mind. He thinks he's doing something helpful to Tanzanians. He's reporting the truth. But of course, he knows what he's doing. Like I said, one of the reasons why Kenyans, we don't succeed as far as people's revolution is because we have a lot of sellouts, If you're presented with a bunch of money, unapewa pesa kidogo and, some luxurious car, house and all that stuff, you are willing to abandon the struggle for these things, for comfort, okay? That's why I say we might just have to have a military coup d'etat, but that's another topic for another day. So Larry, working for CNN, he might be happy he's doing this, he's traveling the world, he's doing whatever. But he fails to understand that he's playing in the hands of the West, okay? Or maybe he knows, but probably doesn't care because he's living comfortably, okay? He's doing what he's doing, okay? But it has effect. It has strong effect. So in the next few months, we'll see how Suluhu will be battling the West, this propaganda machine, and these activists that are trying to unsettle her regime, her administration, destabilize the regime, weaken it, and eventually we'll see if they're going to be successful taking out Suluhu. So to me, I would say that, Obinna, shame on you. I know a bunch of people are really programmed into thinking that, Obinna was doing the right thing. Larry Mtwetu is a fellow Kenyan, or whatever the case is. Obinna was doing the right thing. But listen, if you're going to have a big platform and you're bringing in people from other countries to speak about some issues, let them give their story. Let them talk about their opinion, how they see the issue, to give the viewers a balanced reporting on the issue. Do not just dismiss somebody. You are paid. You're a paid propagandist, and whatever the case is. And if they are paid propagandists, it's easy to actually disarm them or disabuse them of their notion of whatever position they are taking, rather than just be like, I'm going to stop this interview right now because you're a paid activist, whatever. Prove it to your audience that this guy is paid. Beat them with logic. Don't just dismiss them just because you're friends with Larry or whatever the case is. I mean, it was a really disappointing opportunity, missed opportunity, that is, for you to actually show people that, challenge him on his position. But anyway, that's what I think. I think, Obinna missed an opportunity to actually show the people of Kenya the other side of the story, the government story, Suluhu's part side, and the general propaganda that is put against Suluhu. Okay? Now, again, you can take whatever side you want. I just know that for a fact, the decision by Suluhu to ban the use of US dollars in her country led up to all these difficulties, all these challenges she is facing. These challenges are external. They stem from external powers that are influencing the youth through these NGOs and groups that are trying to destabilize and eventually trying to overthrow Suluhu. So the Obinnas and Larry Mado and CNN, BBC, these are just propaganda machines that are used against Suluhu. Am I saying Suluhu is innocent? Absolutely not. But I'm looking at the big picture, the reason why she's facing what she's facing. Anyway, guys, that's my take on this. Subscribe, share, comment, and do all the good stuff. My second video, which I will drop soon, will be addressing why we cannot stop Ruto in 2027. And the only way to take out Ruto is through a military coup d'etat. Not only Ruto, because like I say, Ruto is only the symptom of the problem. We have a bunch of all these colonial puppets, these criminal yesteryear politicians that are masquerading as opposition, and all this stuff, all these games that they're playing. Criminal elite of Kenya. The only way to take them out is through a military coup d'etat. The problem is, if we have a military coup d'etat, will it be somebody like Traore, or are we going to end up with Yoweri Museveni type of leader? Anyway, subscribe, share, like, comment, and tell me what you think about this Obinna situation with Larry Mado and Kasipul and Suluhu. So I'll talk to you guys later. Peace and blessings.